What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Plastic Underground. This week we are working on another Marvel prop for the movie room wall. This week I make Star-Lord's quad blaster from Guardians. It was a really fun build. It is entirely foam. It's all EVA foam, and it's pretty easy. I got blueprints for you guys, and you can make two if you want to. Obviously he has two, but I didn't want to make two just to put them on the wall. So I made one, and it goes right up there. So hope you guys like the video. Like and comment and subscribe.
Alright, so starting off here, taking my pattern. This is already cut apart for you guys on the blueprint that you guys get. You take the handle as one piece, and then the two top and bottom pieces as two separate pieces. The handle is two sheets of, I'm using floor mat foam here just because it's handy and I got a bunch of it. So the handle is two pieces and the top and bottom are three sheets. So the first thing I do with those is I use a little bit of coarse grit sandpaper to sand the texture off the back, not all the way off, just enough where the glue will stick to it. And I glue those together. And then here I'm using my scroll saw. You can totally cut this out with a razor blade or a box cutter, like I usually do. But I have this in the shop, so I wanted to use it because it is a lot easier. It makes your life a lot easier to cut out something this thick, especially with those hand holes on the grip part. It's a lot easier to use a scroll saw, but like I said, you can totally cut it out with a razor blade and then just refine your shape with your Dremel like I usually do. So now that those are done, what I'm doing here is I'm marking out where the handle piece will line up on the bottom of the top part, and I'm just using my razor knife here to cut that shape out so that now your handle will slide in there and you'll have those two overlapping parts. The top and bottom get beveled, so I'm cutting those off first just so I don't have to sand all that with my Dremel. So then I just go through and I shape those. This little round part here, I cut out of some of the two pieces of foam glued together, cut it out, and then I beveled the top, put some detail pieces in. These are some 5mm foam just for the bottom. Now this is like the front, like barrel part. It's 5mm foam. I glue that together. Now I trim away some of that top part there where the barrel's gonna go, because it's not one solid piece there. It's got that cut out. So I cut that out with a razor blade, and then I use my rotary tool just to clean it up. Then I glued the barrel piece on the front. Now I use my blueprint here and I put it back down on the foam piece itself, just to mark out where these grooves go. And then I will cut the template apart and put it back on so I can get my seam lines. I mark those with a pen first, and I do that cut and score technique that I've done on a lot of my videos. You cut it with your razor knife first, and then you hit it with a heat gun, and it opens up those seams. For these, I'm using a Dremel bit, and I'm just kind of cutting into them just to make those vent parts. Now I glue the handle on to the top part using a piece of transfer paper on the end there, so I can stick it down first where I want, make sure it's even on both sides, and then I can remove that paper and then stick the front on, so that way nothing gets stuck while you're trying to glue it together. So just like those round pieces I made for the back of the gun, so I did the same thing for the bottom barrel part. And then those have some scores on the front that go around. I did those the same way I did all the panel lines. So now I'm gluing on that piece of 5mm foam with that foam on the back there. And these go on the top and the bottom part. So now for the bottom piece here, I have 2 pieces of 10mm foam glued together, and I am sanding a bevel on each side to make it round. Then I take some 5mm foam and I glue that to the top part here. The top part gets 2 of these detailed pieces. One's a little bit thicker than the other. You can size those up by using the blueprint and just cutting a strip of 5mm foam out and gluing it on. So there's this one that goes in the back, and then there's this one that goes in the front. And it kind of boxes in that that bottom part where we're going to put more detail stuff later. So now going back to that bottom piece here, I put some glue on there, and this will be like the back part, the part that's closest to the handle of the gun. This is just a piece of 5mm foam that goes on the back. So now my first idea for the top part didn't really work out. So what I do is I end up cutting that piece out, and I use these 4mm pieces of foam here to put around that little box piece. And then I cut that whole thing in half where the seams are. So now that's cut apart, and what I do is I bevel the edges of both of those with my Dremel just to make them round, and then when you glue them back together they match up where you cut them, and it also helps give that look of that like they're 2 round pieces glued together. And then I pop that back into place, and you can see how that looks more round and in depth. So now this piece of 5mm foam is sanded on the edges, both sides are beveled. And then that goes on the end part there of this bottom piece. Then I put another piece on there. Now I am putting that behind so I can mark the angle, and I cut that out. And now you can glue that right on the bottom piece there. Now I just take a 5mm craft foam scrap and I glue in the top part for the trigger. Then I glue the bottom on. I did some additional work on those pieces just to add some more vent lines. I just did that with my Dremel the same way I did on the front. And then there's that little back panel with that screw on the bottom of the handle there. That's just 2mm foam cut out and glued on. Now for this I'm using some Mod Podge just to seal it. I didn't want to use Plasti Dip because sometimes it leaves like a texture. So I wanted to use Mod Podge and give it just a quick sand and buff, just so it's a little bit smoother. I go through and I paint all these parts silver. Now I'm taking some silver paint here and I'm mixing some black into it to make up my own gunmetal. And I go through and I paint all the gunmetal parts. Top and bottom are gunmetal and silver together on those panel lines. These pieces here are all gold. These to me kind of look like old electrical fuses. So I go through and I paint all those gold, top and bottom. Then I go through with my black. All of the handle gets painted black, and then those two panels on the front there, front and bottom, those get painted black too. And I go through and I paint in all of like the vents black, just to really make them stand out. Now for the burnt metal, the heated metal, what I do is I go through with some red, watered down, and I blot that in first. Then I take some blue and I blot that in on the front, and then I take my rag here and I'm just kind of patting that all down so it's not so thick. And this is like how there's a lot of ways to do it. There's a lot of easier ways to do it, but I just used this acrylic paint, and I just I go through and I keep adding layers, just layers on layers and layers, and it kind of gives you that scorched metal look. There's a lot of videos on here that show you how to do that. There's even like special paint that you can buy, like special lacquer paint that it's it's transparent, so it looks a lot better. But you can kind of do it quick enough with acrylic paint like this to just give it that look, and then you can always go through and paint it better later if you wanted to. So now that is done, I go through with some dark brown and some black acrylic paint mixed up, and I rub that into all the grooves and panels and all of the panel lines, just to make the panel lines stand out, and just give that silver a weathered look. Nothing in space stays clean, so I like to go through and give it a pretty good weathering. Then after that, I go through with some silver, and I paint those screws silver. And then the other thing I do here is I'm going through and I'm adding some chips, some like chipping and some scratches, just to make it look like it's been through battle and, you know, been dropped and all that kind of stuff. And that is it. That is how I made one of Star-Lord's blasters. You guys can feel free to go ahead and make 2 of those if you want, but I am happy with 1, so that is it. I hope you liked the video. Hope you can use those patterns. Like the video if you like. Leave me a comment if you want, and I'll see you guys next time.